This is the crochet cell phone case that I'll be showing you how to make today, and I'll be showing you how to make any size for any phone. The materials required are a phone. I'm using my Samsung phone, and for the yarn I've used Red Heart Designer Sport, and this is a sport weight or sport lightweight yarn category 3, and this colour is blush rose, and you'll only need a small amount of that. And for the trimmings I'm using Red Heart Designer Sport, and it's a category 3 sports lightweight, and this colour is Granite. You'll also need a 4mm hook, some cotton thread, a yarn needle, a sewing needle, a button, and some craft scissors. Now if you have a different phone to mine and it's wider or thinner, then the way to measure how many chain stitches you need is make a chain and then wrap it around your phone, and if that is going to join up with your other end here, then you know that you have the right circumference for your phone. So for my phone I'm using 22 chain stitches, and I'm using the blush rose yarn for my main colour. So now that I've got my 22 stitches, or once you've got the amount you need, we're going to join into the first chain stitch and make a slip stitch, and that's going to form a ring, and we'll be working in rounds. Now for round 1 we'll chain 1, so make 1 chain, and in this same space where we joined there, we'll be doing 1 single crochet stitch. And now we'll be doing 1 single crochet stitch into each stitch around, and just make sure that your foundation chain doesn't twist up on you. So just making 1 single crochet stitch into each chain stitch right around, and the amount of chain stitches that you started with will be the amount of stitches that you end up with at the end of this round. So I've chained on 22 chain stitches, so I'll end up with 22 single crochet stitches. So whatever amount you've chained on, you should end up with the same amount of stitches for this round. So I'll let you continue on making your single crochet stitches into each chain stitch around, and I'll meet you at the end. So I'm up to towards the end of round 1, and I've just made my last stitch there, and we can see our join there. That was our chain 1, and that was our first single crochet stitch. So that's the one we want to join into. So into the first single crochet stitch we made, we're going to do a slip stitch to join this round. And there's round 1 done. Now at this point you can just slip your phone into what you've made, just to double check that it's going to be the right size. So you see, there you go, it's going to be the right size. Now if yours is too big, you can just undo the first round and then just take out a few of your chain stitches on your foundation chain. Just make sure that you have an even amount of chain stitches if you do take off some. For round 2 we'll chain 1, so make 1 chain, and then into this same space here where the join is, we're going to do our first single crochet stitch. And then we're going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch right around to the end. So this is pretty easy. So 1 single crochet stitch into each stitch around until you get to the end. So continue on with this and I'll see you at the end of this round. Okay, so I'm up towards the end of round 2. I've just made my last stitch there, and you can see the join there, and that was our chain 1, and there's our first single crochet stitch that we made for this round. So that is where we want to join into that first single crochet stitch. Make a slip stitch to join that round. Now for rounds 3 to 7 you'll repeat round 2, and I'll see you at the end of round 7. I'm up towards the end of round 7 after repeating round 2 for so many times, and I'm not going to join into here with this yarn tail. You can trim that now because we're going to join in and make a colour change with the other yarn. So I'm using Granite. So insert your hook into that first single crochet stitch, and getting your other colour, leave enough of a tail to weave into the work later on, and wrap it over the hook and draw it through like that. And then with those 2 yarn tails, both different colours, just tie a loose knot so your work doesn't come undone as we work on to the following rounds. And you can tuck those tails inside there so they don't get in your way. Just tuck them inside. So now we're up to round 8, and we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we're working into the back loops only right around for this round, and the back loops are these loops at the back here of each stitch. So into this next stitch here, we'll do 1 double crochet into the back loop. And that's what we'll do right around. 1 double crochet into each stitch around, working only into the back loops. So continue right around, making one double crochet into each back loop of each stitch, and I'll meet you at the end. I'm up towards the end of round 8 and I've just done my last double crochet into the back loop of this stitch here, and you can see our join there, and here's our chain 3. Now we'll be changing back to our main colour now, so trim this end of your yarn that you've been working with and place your hook into the top of the chain 3, so 1, 2, 3. So pop your hook into the top under both loops of that chain stitch, and just put your tail over that way, and getting your other coloured yarn, leave enough of a tail so you can weave in with a yarn needle later on, and then pull it through that chain stitch and through the loop on the hook, and then just do a loose knot with these 2 yarn tails so that we can keep working on without them having the work fall apart. And you can just push them down into the middle there so they don't get in the way. Okay, so for round 9 we'll chain 1, and then we're working in back loops only again, so where this join is here, just work 1 single crochet into the back loop of the join. And then we're going to do 1 single crochet into the back loop of each stitch around. So just working into the back loops, making single crochet into each stitch. So continue that right around to the end, and I'll see you at the end of this round. Okay, so I'm up towards the end of round 9, and I've just done my last stitch into the back loop here, and you can see our join there. There's our chain 1, and here's our first stitch, and we want to make a slip stitch into this first stitch to complete this round. And this is what it's looking like now. And this is what the back looks like. Okay, so for round 10 we'll chain 1, and we'll do 1 single crochet into the same space as the join. And now we'll do 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So it's all smooth sailing from here. It's just 1 single crochet stitch into each stitch around. So continue on and I'll see you at the end of this round. So I'm up towards the end of round 10. I've just made my last stitch there. You can see our join there. There's the chain 1 and there's our first single crochet stitch that we need to do a slip stitch into to complete round 10. And that's what it's looking like now at the back. Well, actually that seam will be on the side, so it'll look like that. That's up the right way. That's the top. So for rounds 11 to 21 you'll repeat round 10, which was that round you just did, and I'll see you at the end of round 21. Right, so I've just finished round 21, and at this point you want to slip your phone into your case just to make sure that you've got the right length. So I'm just slipping my phone in, and yes, and if you can press that down and it looks like it's the right length, then it's all good to finish off. If not, if it's too long, just take out as many rows as you need to, and if it needs to be longer, just make more rounds. Repeat round 10 a few more times until you have the length you need. So now we're going to finish off. So just pop the hook back in there and leave enough of a tail, because we're going to need that to sew the bottom up. So leave a fair bit, 30 centimetres. So cut your yarn and finish off. Now you can see the seam, it runs down like that. We want that seam on the side as we're going to stitch into the bottom of the case. So get your yarn needle and weave this tail into your yarn needle. And where that join is, we're going to just sew into the stitch opposite of it. And then you'll see that the stitches line up. So we're going in the next and through the other side there to match up. And then get the next stitch and then match up the other one on the other side and stitch through. And don't pull too tight, otherwise it'll go all out of shape. So we just keep going across this way, matching up the stitches. And if you have if you started off with 22 stitches like I did, then you'll only need to do 11 of these stitches along the bottom. If you had more stitches, then it would be basically you just half that amount, and that's how many stitches you'll be doing on the bottom here. Okay, so that's the bottom stitched up. Now you can insert your hook in on the inside of the case, and you'll need to turn it inside out now. And just make a knot, and then you can weave your end up through the work. And you can go up as far as you like, just to hide that tail. And then you can trim that off. And that's that one done. Now with these ones here, just undo your knots, and with the pink yarn tails, weave them in through the back of the stitches, and with your granite colour or any other colour that you may be using, just weave it in through the back of it the same colour. But just make sure that you undo those knots and then weave them in to the back of the work. And you've got this yarn tail here, and just weave that down through there. So once you've weaved in all your yarn tails, then you should have something that looks like this. And now we're up to sewing the button on. So you can sew the button on wherever you like. I'm going to pop mine there. So you'll need your sewing needle and some white cotton thread, and we're going to double up this cotton thread, so thread it through the needle and then have enough to work with, and then just cut it there, and on the end tie a knot. You can use either this cotton thread, or you can use your yarn if you like, if you have big enough holes on the button. Okay, so there we go. And now I just know where I'm going to place it, and then on the inside just pop my needle through. And then what I do is I pull this through, but don't pull it right through, and then put that through the other side there, pull it up, and then get the end of your cotton and put the needle through the middle of each strand, and this really is a good way to secure your cotton thread, to make sure your button's not going to pop off. And then thread it up through this side again, and now you're ready to put the button on. And then just place it into that hole, pull it through the other side, and then just keep going until the button's sewn on and very secure. So I'll let you continue on doing that, and then I'll show you how to finish off at the end here. So once you've sewn on your button enough there, just flip it over and just weave it through the yarn like that. And make a knot. And you can keep doing that as many times as you like. Weave it through the yarn and then do a knot. So I'm just going to trim mine off now. And you can pop your phone into the case, because it's easier to work the next step with the phone in the case. Now with the same coloured yarn as what you have on this row here, just weave it through a yarn needle and just have a good length to work with. And starting on the join side here, just bring your yarn up and leave enough of a tail that you can make a bow with when we come around the other side, and then just go through each loop around. This just gives it a nice finishing touch, and we're also going to make the loop for the button with this as well. Now just keep an eye on where the button actually is, and we're pretty much lined up with it now on the other side, so just go like that. Yep, and that will be how much of a loop we'll need. Okay, now just to keep going into the next one, and I'm just going to double check that again. Yep, I'm happy with that. So keep the loop over the button like that and keep on working into the other side here. And you just keep working on this way and just keep going right around. You can undo that as you come around this end, and then I'll see you at the end here. Okay, so I've done all my loops on the front there, and I'm over to the other side here, and now just trim the same length as the other side, and you can tie a bow, or you can weave these two ends down through the back of your work if you don't want to have a little bow. There we go, and that's how you make the crochet cell phone case. So if you'd like to share a photo of your cell phone case, please feel free to do so on the Crochet Hook Shoe Facebook page.